So opening nationwide this Friday and showing here in Rhode Island at Cinema World at the Lincoln Mall is the movie Gosnell, the trial of America's biggest serial killer. Now, the film is a true story of the investigation and trial of Dr. Kermit Gosnell, his 30-year killing spree, and the political and media establishment that tried to cover it up. Starring as Detective James Wood, one of the detectives who investigated and put abortion doctor Kermit Gosnell behind bars, is Mr. Dean Cain, who also happens to be on the line with me. Hello, Dean.
Alan, how are you, my friend?
I am good. How are you?
I am excellent, thank you. Jetting around the world these days, so I'm a little bit tired, but I don't mind it at all.
Now you're in California right now, right?
I just arrived about 12 hours ago. Yep.
Oh, wow, about 12 hours ago. All right, so let's just get right to it. So I know you have the Gosnell movie coming up. Tell us a little.
October 12th.
October 12th, which is this Saturday, opening up here.
Okay. Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about it.
So Gosnell was a movie we shot probably 3 years ago, and first of all, nobody here in Hollywood would fund the film, so the producers went on Indiegogo and raised, I think, $2.3 million in a very short period of time. It was great to get that kind of support, and then we made the film, and the film tells the story of Kermit Gosnell, who's a Philadelphia abortion clinic doctor who is now in jail for life, found guilty of 3 counts of murder and 1 count of involuntary manslaughter, I believe. And that's what they was found guilty of. But he probably and most likely was guilty of thousands of murders. And what he did was he would induce labor for late term abortions instead of doing what they do. It's called a dilation and extraction.
Mm-hmm.
Instead of doing that, it's a very complicated procedure and expensive, and it takes time. Instead of doing that, he would induce labor. Babies would be born alive. And he would snip their spinal cords with surgical scissors. He called it snipping.
Yeah, and I remember even seeing some of this, and I couldn't even get through it. I was just so horrified.
It is a horrifying situation, but people don't realize. I mean, this guy doesn't think he's done anything wrong. So he got caught doing that and went to jail. And part of what happened is when he was getting the court system. He was going through the courts and everything. Nobody covered it. No journalists were covering it. No one wanted to be around. No one wanted to tell the story. It was crazy. They thought there was going to be, a media circus, but nobody was there. He was found guilty, and finally Kirsten Powers said something, and some journalists did show up. So you finally got to see some things in the media. But after we finished the movie, and then we wanted to distribute it, nobody wanted to distribute it either. And even buying ad time for us, like on NPR, we couldn't call him an abortion doctor or an abortionist. We had to just refer to him as Dr. Gosnell. Even though that's what he did. He brought in about $1.8 million a year. He performed thousands and thousands of abortions, late term, and the guy was a true monster, and he had no remorse whatsoever.
And yeah, he just managed to slip through the cracks. I think a lot of it was because they wanted to make sure that women had access to these services, but also were willing to risk the health and safety of these women to do it.
Well, yeah, they actually had, at the time it was Governor Ridge of Pennsylvania, who I know personally, and I like him a lot, but the political pressure was put on him to not inspect that clinic, and it hadn't been inspected, I think, in 17 years.
17 years, yes.
So when they raided the place, it looked like a house of horrors. It was unbelievable.
Yeah, I could just, like, again, what I had seen about it, what I had researched it on myself. I mean, a lot of the stuff I had trouble getting through. What I was curious about now, so what about when you were presented the story, the script? What was it about it that made you want to do this project?
Well, the story itself was very compelling, and the fact that it was a real life story is always interesting to me. Real life is always more strange than fiction. They say it all the time. I mean, it really is. The stuff that people really do is you're just like, wow, I can't believe in real life someone would do this or have this be their life. It was really well written. Andrew Clavin wrote the script, did a great job. Nick Searcy was directing it. I knew Nick. I didn't know him personally, but I knew him as an actor, and I know he's very talented. He works with some friends of mine on Justified and some other projects, and I liked the character of Jim Wood as a detective. It wasn't that I was trying to make a statement or do anything. In fact, this entire film, people are like, oh, it's a pro-life movie. It's not. This film takes no stance on the abortion issue. It just tells the true story of what took place with this man and this clinic and the things surrounding it that people just aren't aware of. And so for us is to get the word out there that this stuff is taking place and to hopefully, for me, I hope it sparks a discussion among people where they go, wow, okay, this isn't what I sort of thought it was.
Right.
The fact that this can exist, it should never be. Places like this should never be allowed to exist. The poor women that go in these places, it's horrible for them, and maybe do something about it.
Right, because I mean, I know one of the biggest arguments, whether you're pro-choice, pro-life. I mean, one of the arguments is that women getting back alley abortions and ending up in places like this. So
sure.
I mean,
Even though this is a fully sanctioned clinic, this is the place that you're supposed to want to go to. But it is like a back alley abortion clinic. But he had two tiers. He put the more affluent white people in a different spot. I mean, this guy, he was actually a black doctor too, but he was the stuff he did was it was crazy. Again, now the funny part of it is, people are like, oh, it's a pro-life movie and this that, and I am actually pro-choice even now after doing the movie. But this is how I have to make it clear to people. This is why and how I'm pro-choice.
Right.
I'm pro-choice up to viability, which is at 20 weeks, it's about 50% chance of the child to live if born at 20 weeks. At 26 weeks, it's 90%.
90% viable.
At 24 weeks, which is 6 months, it's somewhere close to that. So it's really high. And at that point in time, of course, not including medical conditions for the child and the danger for health of the mother. Those things, of course, I think it should be allowed at that time. But what I say about this is, if I were a legislator, Alan, if I was making the laws, I wouldn't legislate that it's illegal before 20 or 24 weeks. I wouldn't. And there's some things, some counseling and some waiting periods I'd like to put in there, which most states actually already have in their state laws. So when I say that I'm pro-choice, I would never want to abort my own child, but I wouldn't want to legislate. I don't want government telling anybody what they can do with their body.
What they can and cannot do with their body, right? And no, I understand it, and I agree. And I mean, and one of the points I had made when I was discussing this movie with one of my friends is, I mean, again, if abortion is here, and we need to make sure that the women who are already having these procedures, aren't further victimized. And I think something like this,
they're horribly victimized.
I think would help to bring awareness to this, and I think it's unfortunate that the blowback that the film and you are getting from groups saying that it's a pro-life movement, or it's a movie, or it's a anti-abortion movie, because you've gotten some heat about that as well, just for starring in it.
Oh yeah. Well, listen, in today's polarized world and Twitter sphere, people, if you say something that doesn't align with everybody's beliefs, they immediately start calling you names, and they'll throw everything at you, every name, every little ism. You're an ist, you're a racist, you're a phobe, or xenophobe, or a homophobe, or you keep naming it. It just goes through, and they've gotten into this identity politics, which is so ridiculous. They won't listen to anybody's argument. They don't want you to talk to any other group except this group, and they want to tell you what you should say to this group and how you should be, and it's gotten to the point of ridiculously.
Right.
And obviously you saw some attacks that I was dealing with. I get attacked by pro-life movement. I get attacked by pro-choice people. I get attacked by the LGBT community. I get attacked by heavy Christian communities. I get attacked by everybody. So at this point in time, I just state my beliefs. I'll speak to anybody about anything. They don't like it, I'm sorry. Then they'll have to deal with that. But I'm certainly not going to bow to the pressure of the mob and to the people telling me what I should say, when I should say it, how I should say it. Absolutely not, and it doesn't bother me at all when people make the attacks. It's just, I find it ridiculous. I went on a diatribe there. Sorry, Alan.
Oh no. I mean, that's fine. I mean, I completely understand. I voted for Trump, and we can just leave it at that. So I mean, I'm definitely some of those phobes and isms, and I'm a self-loathing homophobe. So I completely understand. I mean, you've always been on the side for equal rights, for same-sex marriage, even before it wasn't, and like I would say, fashionable.
Way before, because I grew up with so many friends of mine who are gay, and I never thought it was ever an issue. I never thought it was a problem. I never saw why anybody couldn't. I had teachers that were gay. I had coaches that were gay. I had everything all the way through. I never even thought it was a thing.
Right.
I never even understood that there was even a situation where it could be that could be that way.
Right.
And for me, that's the way it still is. I can't see that being an issue at all. I can't, and I don't support anybody who wants to change or take any of his rights away at all.
Right.
For their sexual preference, for the love of God.
Right. I mean, I remember even way back in 2000, the Broken Hearts Club, which
I love that movie.
Which is one of my favorite movies. You played Cole, and I remember I saw it, and I was just like, wow, he's on our side, and it was
absolutely. And Cole was such a fun character to play, a lovable cad. Mm-hmm. He never wanted to hurt anybody, but he did.
Yes.
He was just very self-absorbed, and he had a lot of fun with himself. That's for sure.
It was, yes, it was, it's still a good movie. And, one of my friends actually, who I was talking to, about all this, I'm like, you've never seen that. So I got to see it again, very recently. So that made me happy.
I think it still holds up.
Oh yes, definitely. One of the things about it was one of the first movies about being gay that didn't have to deal with, it didn't deal with AIDS. It didn't deal with, sex or drugs or any of those other things. It was about just regular kind of LGBT lifestyle, just normal,
people,
everyday
friends, and romance and something anybody, regardless of your sexual preferences, should be able to relate to.
Right, and it was good. It was refreshing. It was a movie that wasn't, I guess, a tragedy.
Exactly.
We didn't have too many of those. But speaking of tragedies, I did want to ask you, and I know since we are talking about the whole guilt by association and the clickbait and people jumping to conclusions. So
yes.
Saturday,
which is a fallacy, by the way. Guilt by association is an absolute fallacy, and we know it. And people just refuse to change their mind. They're going to say that no matter what, and it's just ridiculous.
And I mean, I could pick anybody, and I'm sure if I dug far enough, I'm sure that I would know somebody that, I'd find somebody that they know that wasn't too savory or had done so. I mean, yeah, it is ridiculous. But this Saturday, we got a new Supreme Court Justice, Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes, we did. Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes. It actually, I thought a lot of this, it happened a lot quicker with the FBI probe, a lot quicker than I was anticipating. I was thinking this was going to really drag out. But come Saturday, we got Brett Kavanaugh. I wanted to get your take as to this process of what had happened and where we are now, and what do you think we're going to look forward to?
Well, it's gotten extremely polarized in the last several appointments. It didn't used to be that way. Anton Scalia, I believe, was approved 97-0. Mm-hmm. Back in the day, and that, several decades ago, obviously. But now it's gotten extremely polarized. Politics is an ugly, dirty game, and so those guys have been messing around, and politicians have been changing the rules, and they changed. There was the Biden the Biden rule, which you don't appoint a Supreme Court justice during a presidential election year, and it went into effect. That's why Merrick Garland got
held off.
Filibustered and held off, and those are the rules of the Senate, and they changed the Senate, and they changed the rules. I don't have to go run through it with you because and they changed the rules and allow a simple majority instead of 60 votes. And so, if you have the House or if you have the Senate, you can get a judge through. That's the way it works now. And those are the rules that were implemented by the former administration, and now there's a new administration in town, and they can make use of those rules. So I think what happened was, just from a procedural point of view, I think that the Democrats, they said, like, whoever Trump is going to nominate, they're going to fight tooth and nail, because it's sort of seen as the Kennedy vote was sort of seen as a swing vote, and they figured he would appoint somebody constitutionally to the right.
Like he said he was going to.
And he said he was going to. Well, he's kind of done a lot of things that he said he was going to do.
Yes.
and so he, whether it was going to be Brett Kavanaugh, I thought it was going to be Amy Coney Barrett.
I did too.
I really thought it was going to be her, but whoever it was, they were going to go after. And they went after him, and they went after him on the law and the things, and if they do that, that's fine. That's what you're supposed to do. This whole thing with the Christine Blasey Ford accusation with zero corroborating evidence, and 36 years ago, that was, and Feinstein sitting on the letter for so long, from July to September, until it's just to me, it's just all jumped and screamed political delay tactic. And they went through it, and there was a lot of outrage, and there still is outrage. But I said this the other day in the news, that outrage is all goes back to what we talked about a minute ago, which is you voted for Trump. So did I. Mm-hmm. And that outrage goes back to when Donald Trump was elected president. And they are just screaming all these isms and things. Do I think Brett Kavanaugh is a rapist? No, I do not. Do I think something happened to Dr. Ford? Maybe. Sure, something happened to her. Do I think it was Brett Kavanaugh? No idea.
No.
Turns out that the guy who was her ex-boyfriend who wrote that letter saying very clear for 6.5 years, she didn't do this, she didn't do that, she wasn't afraid of this, that, the other thing. She helped coach someone. It's a kid that I've known my whole life.
Yeah.
And I've known this guy my whole life. He doesn't have a political bone in his body. He doesn't have any dog in that fight. But he got contacted, he got shoved in the middle of this, and he told the truth. And this is a guy I trust implicitly, whose own father was a judge. This guy wants to be nowhere near politics. And he told the truth, I believe. And that just absolutely destroys her story.
Right.
So do I think it was a political stunt? Yes, I do, 100%.
Yeah, and I tend to agree with you. What I'm curious as to what's going to happen from this point forward. And I mean, I know now Justice Kavanaugh, he had said that he fears that people who are well suited for the job, will not be stepping up because they don't want to go through things like this.
But
that's
not new, I don't. It's
right.
getting worse. I mean, I remember even George Clooney saying something similar to this way back when he was just finishing ER, I think somewhere in that ballpark. He's like, good people don't want to do these jobs because of the scrutiny and because of the false allegations. And people are still today, there's a picture of Brett Kavanaugh standing there with the Supreme Court. They put a beer kegger on his head and things like that. And he's a you see comments on Twitter. He's a knockdown. He's a blackout, slobbering, drunk rapist. You're like, what are you talking about?
Right. Where is this coming from?
Wow. I mean, it's glad that you know that this person is a rapist and a slobbering, blackout drunk because you have zero evidence of that. I mean, it's crazy.
Right. And a couple of weeks ago, the biggest thing a couple of weeks ago was Cory Booker wondering about, racial profiling. Now he's a gang rapist.
There it is, bing, just like that. And it changes at the drop of a hat, and it comes down to it's hashtag resist is really what it comes down to. But it goes back to President Obama. Elections have consequences, and that's the deal.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where we are today. I'm kind of fearing for, where for women in general, where is this going to go? I mean, is this going to afford them, less opportunity, or are people going to be, I'm thinking, are they going to be less likely to offer, positions or things where they're going to have to, where they're going to want to work alone with a woman, or are they going to put themselves in a particular?
A lot of people are. Well, remember how much fun they made of? They made so much fun of Mike Pence for saying he wouldn't sit down and have dinner with a woman, and
he's right.
Well, it kind of proves it to some degree. I mean, look at Brett Kavanaugh. There's literally zero corroboration. Mm-hmm. Nothing. There's not a single person other than the quote victim themselves who said something, and there's never been nothing's been filed. So it is frightening. It is frightening, and I understand that. Listen, I was accused of groping a woman, and fortunately for me, it was on camera. A girl I had known for years, on camera during a television show as I was saying goodbye, and saying goodbye in a way that I had said goodbye 60 times beforehand. Mm-hmm. A kiss on the cheek, bye, on both cheeks, just like I do in Europe. If I live in Europe, I have a home in Europe. I've had a house there for 16 years. And that was it. It was on camera, and I'd done it, dozens of times. And then I was accused of groping. Thank God that was on camera. And I could say, there's my groping. Call that groping. Go ahead. But other than that, it's a charge that sticks.
Yeah.
And it's really frightening. So I hope that isn't the case. What they need to do is if someone's going to give false statement, false testimony, prosecute them.
Yes, I agree. I absolutely agree with you.
No, and that's not going to stop people from coming forward. And people, again, if people are going to give me this whole thing about, I'm a rape, I've been called a rape apologist now, which of course, listen,
is that a thing?
My sister and my mother both had. You have been called that too. My sister and my mother was raped. I mean, I have some horrible stories, and trust me, I'm anything but a rape apologist. But what they went through was a hell of a lot worse than what Christine Ford went through, and they have gotten through it, and their opinions are a whole lot different on that. And I am anything but a rape apologist, but you got to have some evidence. If you're going to accuse somebody of it, you got to have some evidence. You got to back it up somehow.
I had Juanita Broderick on a couple of weeks ago, and I was talking to her.
Been awesome.
I was talking to her. She's an amazing woman. She's so nice. She's just I could have talked to her for the whole entire show. But I mean, she from what she went through with Bill Clinton, I mean, and she has a completely different take on this. And I mean, and she's by no means a rape apologist. Yeah,
by no means. She's a victim herself.
Yes.
And that is unbelievable. And there's the double standard, and you see it all the time. Yeah. You know, that's the double standard. They talk about this, that, and then, but the ACLU did put something out in their ad, their anti-Kavanaugh ad, that put Clinton on there, which was interesting. They did an anti-Kavanaugh ad, and it started with Bill Clinton.
Yeah, I think the Dems may have to make a couple of concessions, especially with things that are going on today.
I would think so.
You would hope so, but all right, Dean. Well, I think as usual, I'm up against the clock here too. So I did want to thank you again for taking time out of your schedule to come and tell us about the movie and your take on just the state that we're in today.
Yeah, Alan, listen, I appreciate you having an open conversation and being willing to discuss things, whether we, agree with each other or not. Here's the thing. If I disagree with you on something, I'm not going to start lighting you up and calling you isms and obes and phobes and this and that. That's just not how it works. People disagree, and it's okay to disagree. And I find that just madness. I don't just go on shows that just agree with me either. I'm happy to go speak to someone who believes one way or the other. So I'm happy to discuss my point of view. Hopefully they'll do it in a respectful manner. If it's not a respectful manner, then the interview ends. Right,
and I understand because I've even tried to get some of our other elected officials in this state on my show who are on the other side, and they just for the discussion, because I'm not going to rip anyone a new one, but I want to have a discussion where you're coming from and see where we can meet. But I think we're more willing to talk than the other side of the aisle.
I enjoyed your talk. By the way, I think it was at your state.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, whatever that was at your state assembly or something like that. You did a great job talking about the Second Amendment, which I happen to be a huge supporter of as well. So I thought that was well done. Yes, thank you. Yeah, the fight continues. A fight that shouldn't happen, but the fight that continues. And it'll continue. Yes, no problem with that. All right, Dean. I want to thank you. And again, this Saturday, Gosnell's opening up nationwide. So everyone, out there and see it, please. We need the support. Yes, go down and see it. So thank you very much, Dean. I will let you get back to all your craziness. I appreciate it. Thank you so much for having me on, and I look forward to speaking to you in the future. Thank you. So do I. Bye-bye. Bye-bye.